Welcome to Dream It, Dare It, Do It, Live the Life You Want, a podcast where Jasmine just chats with people, basically. And today I have my new friend, Doreen Calderon. Is that how you pronounce it?
Beautifully, yeah.
Yeah?
Calderon. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Hi, Doreen. How are you?
I'm well, Jasmine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. So, everyone, I want you to know a story before we begin. And we're actually going to have a chat about this because I think it was interesting that it actually showed up. So, I've known Doreen for a little while in the sense that I've seen her, in my classes because we both take classes with Michael. And so she talks, I talk, we see each other in that perspective. But last weekend, we actually did exercises together and we had a chat. And I was like, oh, I want her on my show. So I asked her to come to the podcast and she said yes. And the story is this. So Doreen, I asked her to be my friend on Facebook, not in life. I didn't say, Doreen, can you be my friend? No, on Facebook. And she accepted me. And as she accepted me on Messenger, I sent her a message and I said, I want you to come to my podcast. Will you come? Here's the link. And she booked, an appointment for us to have a conversation. And now that we're friends, I see her in my news feed. People who know Facebook know the news feed. And all of a sudden I see one of her posts and the post says this. Well, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly what it said, but it's basically season 5 of Riverdale is coming. I'm going to be on episode 1 and episode 3. And I'm like, oh my God, my brain went, oh my God, she's on Riverdale. Oh man. And I sent her a message right away and I said, oh shit, you're on Riverdale. My God, I wouldn't have ever asked you to be on my podcast if I would have known. and like, I'm having this insecure thinking about, oh my God, she's a star. She's on TV. She's on the CW, for crying out loud. I'm having all this thinking about it. And I'm like, how dare I ask her to come on my little podcast? And Doreen replies, what's the problem? Is there a conflict with your show? And I thought it was just the funniest response. And I just saw in that moment the thinking that I had about, okay, well, Doreen is much higher than me. And I'm like this low and she can't come on my show because it's like beneath her. And I just like her response just busted that balloon. And here she is. And I looked at your IMDb file and I was like, you know what? I probably saw you in so many shows now that I know. Like maybe she was familiar because of more than Michael. Maybe I've seen her on TV because I love TV. I watch a lot of it. So that was happening. And do you have that thinking, Doreen?
About feeling less than somebody or being in somebody's presence about?
Yeah. Or maybe it like, do you think you're like, it's like beneath you to come to my show?
I have to tell you,
yeah,
within the same week, you were the first of 2 people who asked me to be on a podcast. And with you, it was a no-brainer because you know how quickly I responded.
Yes.
And the other guy, I still haven't responded to him yet. That was like 10 days ago.
Okay.
So when you talk about beneath me or above me, it's not about that for me. It's like, what's the right fit?
Yeah, I get it.
And honestly, I go back and forth with this other guy because he's not involved in our discussion of this type of inside out living. He is somebody who is extremely cerebral. He doesn't have much of a self-awareness with people, but he's super ass smart. For no apparent reason, this young man has written like 7 books. I would never buy one of them. And he just kind of knows how to be a businessman. But he is, in my opinion, because I've worked with him before, clueless on the human factor.
Yeah.
So the business part of me is like, oh, I should get on his podcast because then I'll have more people aware of who I am and my coaching. And the other one is, I don't know if I can talk to this guy. And I don't, so that's where I'm coming from.
And it's all thinking still, right?
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about what you do, because like we're both in this conversation of the inside out understanding, and just understanding that, it all comes from within. Like I was the one who was thinking that, I had my thought of, okay, she can't do that. Like you're a big girl, you can, take your own decisions, right?
Right.
So you, like, my understanding is you work specifically with actors.
I do, but I will work with non-actors as often as they will let me.
Yeah.
I know that because of my television appearances and whatnot, that I have a certain amount of credibility in the acting room. Yeah. So people will go, of course, I'd like to be coached by Doreen. She knows what she's doing. Yeah. But take me out of this world and people will go, well, what kind of coach are you? And well, maybe. And so I do focus on actors because I know that language so well. But I love to work with everybody. Just the other week, it was actually after you and I experienced that weekend intensive.
Yeah.
And one of the participants, actually I reached out to her because she had a dream that she shared. And I said, look, I interpret dreams and I'd love to expand on that if you're interested. So I did. And I always have fun doing it because for me, it is a tool. It is not the end. The interpretation is a tool. It's a jumping off point to get into that inside out discussion. And she was thrilled with everything that I discovered in her dream because she already had a good handle on it. So I was thrilled that I was able to give her something more. And so she asked me, who do I work with? How much do I charge? What is, do I do dreams? She was specifically asking about leading me in a direction I hadn't thought about in a while. So while I've done dream interpretations for years, it's not been on a professional forefront. And I thought, I should probably get back into that because it's a great tool.
Yeah, and you like it.
I do. So that's sort of a long ass answer of like, who do I mostly work with?
You mostly work with actors, and now you're thinking of going in dream interpretation.
Well, again, it's just a tool. It's kind of the same conversation.
Yeah.
For instance, I had a talk on Wednesday night called Imposter Syndrome.
Yes.
And I had 2 non-actors on board. I want to say in the audience, in the Zoom audience. What is that?
It is an audience.
And one of them is a registered nurse and had their really heartfelt experience of being an imposter. Somebody had come into the hospital and asking for directions, and she gave them directions, and this person stopped and turned to her and from the heart said, thank you for all you're doing being on the front line. And she walked away. And the nurse felt like an imposter because had she been on the front line? Yeah, but she was mostly working a lot of detail on computers in the office. But she had already been an RN for over 25 years. So she's been in the ER, in oncology and pediatrics. She's been all over. But in that moment, she felt like an imposter. And it was a beautiful example, that's a funny word, beautiful example of how our experiences are universal. It's not just for one group of people. You asked earlier, do I ever get into that, clusterfuck of thinking of, oh my God, I'm in the presence of somebody who's really important. As an actor, we have to get out of that almost immediately, because if we're lucky enough, we're working with people who've been in the business a long time. My very first television gig in Los Angeles was on Frasier. And here I was working with Kelsey Grammer for an entire week. Even though I had a very small role on there, I was there in rehearsal, on the stage, having lunch with him. And for me, see, as an actor, we're in these unique experiences where we don't have time to indulge in, oh my God, that's a famous actor. We don't have time. We have to snap right into, he's my peer, we're scene partners, and I better be professional so I don't get fired.
Yeah. Michael Neal brings it. Michael Neal is our guy. He says it a lot. He says, if you think you can't get out of your head, just look at all the actors around there. They have to do it in like a blink, in a blink of a second, and just get out of their heads and do what needs to be done. And so like that's what it reminded me as you were saying that. And I've never acted. Don't get me wrong. I've never acted. I was a singer. So that's the closest I've been to acting. I gotta emote the song.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did I learned a lot in my singing career where, I had a job and I was off stage and I was like pissed off at whatever it was. Well, what I got on stage, I had to sing, and it had to sound good. And when I was angry, it didn't sound good. So.
Yeah, and you point to something that is universal, and that if there is a solution to our thinking, it's in what you just described. Because as a performer, there's the old saying, the show must go on, right? And we have probably all heard stories about performers who have been deathly ill or who have just lost a loved one, and the show must go on, and they go on and give an amazing performance. And the reason that happens is because when you're performing, you are in the moment, fully present. That's why I love acting, specifically improv.
Yeah.
Improv is my thing.
Yeah. On your, okay. So I have to say I've been wanting to do improv, but I have the thinking that I would never be able to do it. And then I saw on your newsfeed that you're doing improv via Zoom.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. It's crazy. Back in March, it's almost a year ago, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was with an improv group that I was still testing the waters with, and they had invited me to play with them months before. And I wasn't quite sure, but I think they had a really nice mission statement. And then when everything shut down, my mind immediately went to, how can we do this? How can we do this if we're not in a live theater? And because, people like you and me, we've already been working on Zoom prior to all of this shutdown. So I approached the artistic director and I said, I think we can do it on Zoom. And he was such a gloomy guy. He was like, no, I don't know. And he carried this on for a couple of weeks to the point where I had to leave. I'm like, if this guy has no vision, I must leave, because while he was hesitating, I was seeing improv groups from like old friends I'd known back in the day in New York and Los Angeles and Seattle. They were doing it on Zoom, and it was really cool. Well, since then, I've had a couple of other groups ask me to play, and one group, they are amazing. They just like, they figured it out. So it's not just where, what we call, the Brady Bunch diagram of looking at Zoom squares, right?
Yeah.
They've got a tech director that's calling the camera shots,
Really?
just like TV.
Yeah.
And they've also got another person. There's two people. It's like tech and director. Anyway, we're using tech, we're using a director, and these people cannot be seen by the public. It's all behind the scenes. So we also can look at the chat and we can see what's going on. It's still improv because we don't know when the director is going to call our image up.
Okay.
We got to jump right in. So that's thrilling to me. I'm also working with another group. We're going to do a show at the end of February. I should name these groups. The first one I'm working with is called Ripley Improv.
Okay.
And I'm going to do a show with them Sunday afternoon. I think it's called Ladies Who Brunch.
Nice.
And then on February 27th, I'm going to do a show with Cold Tofu Improv, which is the nation's longest running Asian-based improv company. Totally diverse, even though it's Asian-based.
Yeah.
In cahoots, in co-production with a long-standing company called Impro. And the name of the show is called Script Tease. And I love it. What we're doing is we're reading cold. We've never seen it before. The first 2 pages of a script from a new writer. So it's not like a Tennessee Williams or Shakespeare. These are new writers. So it's new to us, it's new to the audience. We're reading the first 2 pages. And then as improvisers, we're letting those pages go and we're improvising the rest of the play.
Okay.
We're just taking off with it. And we've been having rehearsals and it's so much fun.
So people can just go listen to this?
Well, it's visual. So they're watching us, right? So if you went on like the Impro, website,
Yeah.
they would have upcoming shows. If you went on the Cold Tofu Improv website, which I'm a member of. I'm a member of Cold Tofu Improv. So
Okay.
you're going to see my picture all over there. And they'll have upcoming shows.
Okay.
And it's usually, same thing with Ripley. They're usually these Twitch links. See, that's what all the kids are using, Twitch.
Okay.
And it's interesting because it's like a specific feed. First you start with Zoom and then it goes out through Twitch. And it provides for interaction with the audience.
Okay.
It's so above my thinking, but I'm just like, okay, I don't have to know how television works. I can just turn it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds it's above my thinking too. I have no idea how that is, but I'm definitely gonna go take a look.
Yeah. I mean, look, the only reason I bring this up is because I want to share and point to the genius that we all have access to. And some people, like that other group with the gloomy Gus,
Yeah.
who's like, oh, we can never do it. He has closed off his access to his genius.
Yeah.
Or these other people are like, oh yeah, we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this.
Yeah.
At the end of every one of my YouTube videos, which is under my name, Doreen Calderon, I say I have a three-pronged philosophy, and that is quit thinking so much, just show up and play.
Hmm.
And I am attracted to those people who embrace that.
Yeah. So when you were talking about the imposter syndrome, like the imposter syndrome is like literally in the way of all of that,
Mm. Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I remember I had a conversation because I don't know if I had the imposter syndrome, but I did tell myself I did, right? Um, and I remember I kind of like was that like that nurse you were talking about where I um I I love I'm a lover, you know, and
You're French.
sometimes I'm what?
Because you're French?
Because I'm French. No, just because I'm Jasmine. I just saw for myself that I love people. I meet people, I fall in love with people. I meet animals, I fall in love with animals. I listen to TV, I fall in love with TV. I'm a lover. I love. And the more that I'm into this conversation, I'm seeing that everybody loves. I think that everybody is lovers. And then we have different levels of thinking that hides our love, that protects us from showing that love around. And before I saw this, I had a conversation with someone once, and I was talking to her, and I was explaining to her how I was an imposter. I was like literally explaining, listen, yeah, I'm sweet and all, but really I'm a bitch. you know? And she was like, "Hmm?" Like she didn't understand. What are you talking about? And I was like, well, whenever I love people, like that's just me being a fake, because what I am truly is a bitch. And that's what I freely show people. I freely show people that I'm a bitch and I know better. And I'm like, I had the frowns constantly in my face, and I was strong and hard, and as I'm explaining this to her, she kind of like looked at me and she says, well, what if it's the contrary? Like, what if, the imposter is the bitch and the true one is the love? And like, it had never occurred to me, like never in a million years had it come to mind. And I was like, holy shit, I've been hiding the
Yeah.
lovely girl because with the bitch. So I've been hiding the authentic and showing the imposter,
Yeah.
and thinking I was the imposter was this, so I was doing the reverse, and I bursted out laughing. Like, so every single time that I've been a bitch, I've actually been showing the imposter to everybody, and that had a major shift in my being, because then, when I felt angry, when I felt like a bitch, when I felt superior, when I felt whatever, I was like, yeah, no, that's not me. I don't need to show this one. This will disappear. The real one is the one that loves, and that, is okay with whatever is. And I think that that's cool. So if you're go for it. Like if you're guiding people to get rid of the imposter syndrome, I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit different from what my discussion was, but
Yeah.
pointing to what you said, I know people who have had the same experience, but with different masks. The
Yeah.
masks are switched, whereas they will be the good girl. They will be the nice person and constantly extend themselves. But the real person wants to scream out and go, I want to live my life. I don't want to be catering to you. Give me time alone. So that's a good thing, I think, for us to look at when we are putting on the mask.
Yeah.
And why? Actually, why? What's the payoff? What do we think is the payoff? I totally am with you, Jasmine, about the bitch being one mask. I was so angry when I was younger. And I had the bitch mask on so tightly, I didn't know I had it on. I didn't know I had it on until all of a sudden I get blindsided by somebody saying, well, you're unapproachable. And then I burst into tears.
Yeah.
One time, I was at a very, very, one time, there were many times, a very low point in my life. And I remember sitting in my girlfriend's apartment and I was asking for help, and that killed me to ask for help because I had this mask of being Miss Independent, right?
Yeah.
Little Miss Independent. And I was crying, and she just kept looking at me and looking at me, and she said, "This is the most attractive I've ever seen you." I wanted to punch her in the face.
I get that.
But it stuck with me.
Mm.
It stuck with me, and it's what I know attracts audiences to film, to theater. I'm like, wow, this is what I do. The audience values vulnerability. So much so that we pay money to see it. We carve time out to watch something. And vulnerability isn't always about crying and heartbreak. It's about raw anger. It's about laughing at oneself with comedy, being the fool, watching somebody be the fool. So I understand what she meant. And I come back to that every once in a while. Just recognizing the beauty and vulnerability. Actually, it's powerful. It's extremely powerful. But we can't fake it.
And we know when we're in it, and we know when we're not.
Mm-hmm.
Like we just don't know we know.
I think we know when it's mirrored in the other person's eyes, when they're seeing what we're feeling, and we go, ah, that's it.
Mm.
That's why I love, and I'm putting them all into the same category, vulnerability and laughter. I love improv so much. When I'm on stage, you see, that's the one thing that Zoom is lacking. I can't hear the laughter.
Mm.
The best improv is when the funny comes out of the moment, not when we're thinking of a joke. When the funny comes out of the moment. And when that happens and the laughter happens, it's this euphoric moment of full-on connection with the audience. Laughter is simply understanding. We all got the joke.
Mm.
there's a misinterpretation about actors because of the bad press we get. And we know the bad players in the industry who are only after it for fame or money or glory, self-validation, outside validation, all that stupid stuff. But the actor's actor is in it for that connection. To a writer, to a full-on production, to the audience, to the scene partner.
That sounds great. It's very peaceful. It's a very peaceful place to be.
Yeah.
There's no pressure there. Or I don't feel any pressure there.
Absolutely. I was working with an actor a couple of weeks ago. She had her very first television audition. And it was like 3 lines, but she kept flubbing. And I'm like, don't worry, we'll take it. We'll take it. We'll just keep working it. This is all over Zoom, of course.
Yeah.
And she kept ruining it for herself because she kept taking herself out of the moment. She wasn't present in the scene and what her character's function was in the scene. She kept thinking, oh my God, it's my first audition. I've tried really hard to get into this casting office. This is the first time they've called me in. This is my only chance. All of this crap that had nothing to do with the craft. Ooh, I got to make a new game, crap versus craft.
Nice. That is like, it's funny because I'm working with a writer right now, and she sends me her stories, and I'm like, flow thought, flow thought. So like, it's literally like it shows up. I think that because we're in this conversation, we're more attuned to, oh, that like, yeah, this is right. No, this is wrong. This was your head. This was your heart, kind of thing.
Right. And you point to something that I love sharing with people. Like when I was doing this imposter syndrome talk, they want to know how. How do I do this? Tell me how to.
Yeah.
And all I had to tell them was, just like you, Jasmine, we're demonstrating. Once we understand the truth of it, all we got to do is notice it. Noticing is what changes habits.
Yeah.
When you were pointing out what you were noticing in the writing, flow thought, flow thinking, flow whatever, yeah. It reminded me of that one line in the very first Matrix. And Neo breaks through, he's in that, I don't even know what it was, spaceship, and everything's dirty and dingy. And he's watching the one guy reading code on a screen. And it's just ones and zeros, just going. And Neo is looking at him like, what are you looking at? What is that? And the guy's like, yeah, I mean, I can see, I don't know the words, but he said he could see full-on scenes. He could see homes and food, and he could see whole worlds, whereas people who don't understand it are only seeing ones and zeros.
Yeah. Wow. Doreen, this was a great conversation. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
My pleasure.
So and at the end of the show, I usually ask my guests, if you had a nugget of wisdom for the listeners, what would you say?
Well, I would usually end with my three-pronged philosophy, which I already gave.
Yes, but go ahead. They were awesome.
All right. Quit thinking so much. Just show up and play.
All right. Thank you so much, Doreen. So, Doreen, if people want to talk to you, like how would they do it?
I am all over the internet. My company is called The Recognized Actor, where I say, once you recognize yourself, the world recognizes you. I have a Facebook page, which is probably the best way because you can contact me there. You can see my upcoming events, and you're going to get a lot of information with postings. That's The Recognized Actor on Facebook. And I also have my website, therecognizedactor.com. And my email is on there. People can contact me by email. On my Facebook page and my website, you can also have a free 20-minute consultation. If I've never worked with you before, there's a button for that. You can't miss it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm going to put everything in the description, guys. So that way, if you didn't have time to write it in, you can look at the description and I'll give it to you. So thank you again. And everybody, dream it, dare it, do it, live the life you want.
Yes.
Here is the new segment with my friend Rob, and it's called Move the Way You Want, Just Move.
Whoop, whoop.
And so, hi, Rob.
Hey,
How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Happy to be here. Made it to season 2. I'm on season 2 with a segment.
It's going to be fun. We're having a lot of fun in season.
Well, it better be. If it's not fun, oops, wait, my internet just went down. Oh, click.
No way.
No, if it ain't fun, that's what I'm saying. Can't hear you. Bye. Click. Leave me. It ain't like the old days where I got to make up a bunch of excuses to leave the party and got to go talk to everybody. Nope. Internet. Boop, click, hit the leave button. Yep. Exactly. I just hold myself there for a minute. It's like, and they'd be like, Rob, you froze. You're like, nope, I'm just not having fun. I'm out. And then you click out and be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Send me the recording. Yeah, that's how it works. So I hope we do have fun and I don't have to freeze. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm working on that. Gotta work on it really hard. So,
and of course, I said that on the day it's raining in SoCal and my internet might mess up, but it's not. But go ahead. I promise I'm ready. I'm sorry. Go.
Here in Quebec, it's a beautiful sunny day. So I won't have that excuse here. It's just my computer is very old.
That is too funny.
All right. So, Rob, I just wanted us, like you and I have been talking for like a while now, and you've helped me see things differently when it comes to movement. And there are areas in my life where I had completely just stopped looking. I just like assumed I was settling with the status quo and how it was. And but having chats with you and actually being really honest with what I thought, you helped me see things differently. And I thought, wow, this is a great conversation to have. And I want to see more. And I thought other people would want to see more. And so this is why I asked you to join.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate being here for that.
There's this thing about, moving and working out and all of this, like, even like as I'm saying working out, you see my face starts
yes.
These little things, and I know there are people that love working out. Like yesterday I was watching a show and this guy said, he's a fan of working out. And I was like, who the hell's a fan of working out?
Yeah, there's a few of them out there.
Yeah, it never came to mind that was a possibility.
I'm not one of them, but there are a few out there.
Yeah.
I'm not one of them. Yeah, thank you for hearing or seeing what I was trying to point you to, but I had to come to grips with it myself. I didn't like working out, and I was in the profession. So, so here I am, trying to figure out how to push myself through it, and required, so to speak, to be able to lead others. And that was where I had to change it about myself and not making about exercise. Like, really go back to the basics and realize where was the gap, because I believe that movement is one of our most natural functions.
Mm.
But like you said, when most people talk about it, they do the frown or they're not fans of it. So I wondered, what was the gap? How did we get from, at one point in time, way back in, history, 700, 800 BC, when the Olympic Games started, and fitness was almost like a nation's badge of honor. That was your duty to the nation, to be wealthy, and not wealthy, but healthy, because of the way wars were fought. And if you were unhealthy, you wouldn't be able to help fight for the country. So fitness was a way of life back then. And you come all the way up through the evolution. Even one of our presidents wrote, Thomas Jefferson wrote that this is like, I think like 1700s or something. He wrote, there should be at least 2 hours of exercise per day, no excuse, and have little regard for the weather. So that's like the 1700s. I think that's even before our American Declaration of Independence was out. Like, he wrote that. Then about, I would say, I think it was early 1900s, a guy wrote a fitness magazine, and he started showing people how to work out, and he made $1 million in the early 1900s.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
Filthy.
Yes. And from that, throughout that time, depression, Great Depression, economy, and all that, we get to the 50s of Jack LaLanne. So Jack LaLanne is who we call in America the godfather of fitness. He had a TV show that aired all throughout the United States, and he would teach people how to work out aerobically and how to lift weights and use the exercise equipment. His show hit for 30 years. For 30 years, people believed that was the way you had to do it. And then you go from Jack into the 70s with Arnold Schwarzenegger in bodybuilding. He changed the way we lift. And yes, it's on that chart there, but Arnold Schwarzenegger, basically by doing bodybuilding and the film Pumping Iron, changed the way everybody looked at working out. And then in the 80s, 17 million copies of VHS. You remember VHS? So know how much work it would take to order the VHS, get it in the mail, unwrap it, and go put it in the VCR to sit down and do the workouts. 17 million copies. So I basically say those were the people who shaped how the industry of fitness was marketed. And Jane Fonda, who was beautiful well before she even did any aerobic video, brought fitness and brought beauty and fashion to the fitness world. Jack LaLanne was making millions of dollars. Arnold Schwarzenegger was doing movies about working out and being big and being strong. And it became a thing. And it became about getting bigger muscles and looking the slimmest and being the most fashionable while you do it. And it started creating this gap about what was truly needed to keep your body in a healthy state versus what the people on TV are saying you have to do. And it came on through the years. Remember the challenges where you had to feel like ultimate crap to get through it? Like, a part of the prerequisite was you got to feel like crap. You got to feel inadequate so we could tell you how to do it. It was like, who wants that?
Yeah.
Like, who wants that type of forced movement?
Yeah,
And
we get caught up. We
we
get caught up in the whole thing. We're like, okay, well, if I have to do what Arnold does,
exactly,
screw this. I ain't
screw it. Why even
know?
try? Yeah.
And then, Jane Fonda, come on, I'm never gonna look like her. Right?
And you don't have to, though. That's the part that most people, because we don't know what else they have. We don't know what ailments. We don't know internally what's going on to them. All we can see is an outward appearance, right? Even, I talk about this a lot when I speak. When I was most physically fit, meaning when I had the most muscle mass content on my body and the least amount of fat, muscles popping out everywhere, I was the unhealthiest I'd ever been in my life. I couldn't mentally work myself through anything.
Yeah.
Like physically, I looked good and people would, oh, he's healthy because I could
Yeah.
go to a gym and work out. No, I wasn't. I couldn't communicate emotionally. I couldn't function spiritually. I wasn't healthy by any means.
Yeah.
So that's when I started really realizing how warped our sense of understanding of total health and true health has been now with things like that happening with, fitness models who don't eat properly, that we've patterned our lives after looking like. Like I got some friends that I know put themselves through the ringer to look the way that they look. More power to them. I'm not knocking it, but dang, for somebody who just wants to be the best accountant they could be,
Yeah.
like,
We kind of look to the, like there's this thing where, it's said that you have to suffer. You have to suffer for it to be worthy. Like that.
that's a horrible belief, but yes, I understand it. Yes.
I mean, it's like, okay, well, I'm not sweating enough. I'm not hurting enough. I'm not, like there's all these preconceptions. I know that, I've looked in this direction before. Like if I look into my younger years, I have looked into this direction before. And, I remember in the 80s, and early 90s, I would do aerobics. I would do the aerobics thing. And I like doing the aerobics. I did the step for a while, like I went to go to dance class and I did the step stuff. And I remember one teacher said, I was doing my thing and the teacher's like took me aside and says, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? Am I okay? Like, what are you talking about?" She says, "You are so red."
Yeah.
Because I get red. This is what I do. So if I do, make effort or have some effort, I become really red. And if I do a lot of effort, I do a lot of red,
Yeah.
But the more that
I've seen a lot of red too, just so you know. I've seen a lot of red.
I know. I get red. I'm not so I'm better at it, but I still blush. I blush when I'm happy. I blush when I'm mad. I blush when I work hard. I blush when I'm, like just shy. So that's what I do.
Yeah.
Red girl. But the more that I looked into the direction of that's so funny that we're talking about the red thing, because I've been trying to hide the red thing.
Oh, you cannot do that.
Yeah.
Please, you cannot hide that.
But that's hilarious. Like I'm just seeing it that I've been trying to hide the red thing. Like I don't want people to see that I get red. And so whenever I did exercise, I would get red. Another good excuse not to exercise. But the point that I want us to talk about is there's a difference between exercise and moving.
Absolutely.
Right? So can you just speak to that a little bit for me about moving? Because I'm moving more just because I've had these conversations with you.
So the way I can best explain it is movement is natural. Exercise is unnatural. It's a supplement. So if you think about nutrition, if you have a very nutritionally dense diet where your body is getting all of the 6 basic nutrients, then there would not really be a need for you to take many supplements because your body would be getting everything from the way you eat. Well, the same is with movement. If you can create enough movement in your lifestyle, what do I mean? Getting out for walks, not parking so close to the convenience store, taking a flight of stairs, standing up from your computer desk every now and then, getting down, getting up off the floor, just creating different times to move, then you will necessarily not have to go do exercise, which is artificial movement. So basically what you're trying to do is back in the lack of movement by going to the gym. So my lifestyle, I don't move enough, so I got to go to the gym to supplement it. But if you can get out on a hike, if you can ride your bike with your wife, your spouse, if you could roll around on the floor for an hour with the kids, you are by definition moving, burning calories, going through strength or resistance type movements, holding the kids up in the air, squatting, playing, getting up, getting down, and your cardio, your heart rate is getting up. That's exercise,
Yeah.
right? So it's if you can get more movement in your life for your lifestyle, right? All you want to do is be efficient and effective with your duties and responsibilities in your job. You want to be able to do that without being fatigued, as well as in your personal relationships. You want to have time for your friends and your family and your loved ones, and for yourself. So if you can get enough movement where all those components are true in your life, we're good.
Okay.
Like it's not about moving enough to get to a quantity number of weight, because those aren't connected, right? Like if I'm 300 pounds, then people will say, oh my God, 300 pounds. Well, what if I'm only 8% body fat? Then that 300 pounds doesn't look like 300 pounds with 50% body fat. So the quantity of the number, again, it's fair weather in a sense. It's the quality of how that number is made up. So if you just think, I just want to increase my muscle mass and lower my fat mass, then that's by cardio activity. That's by doing some resistance. Well, good. I can do that with bringing my groceries in. I could do that by taking a few cans or moving. I bet that plant behind you is at least 15, 20 pounds. Take that plant across the room, put it down, pick it back up, take it back across the room, put it down. Like, I'm pretty sure that you'll be tired after that, just like we did the get up off the floor exercise.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yep.
That is movement. And at first it felt crazy. You even said it. But
Yeah.
after a while, you was ready because you was moving, right?
All right. Well, that was fantastic. Thank you, Rob. So you're coming back, right? In the future.
Absolutely, I'm coming back.
All right, guys. I hope that this just got you to look at things differently, and it's sparking some inspiration. And stay tuned, because Rob will be back. Thank you, Rob.
Boom.